Hello and welcome to the Capital Games Movie Club podcast. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. Are you ready to be playing with the boys? I bet you are, my friend, because today we are reviewing the 1986 Tony Scott action blockbuster Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis, right? It's McGillis.
Yeah.
Yes. My God, I get her name wrong all the time. And Val Kilmer. Also, I believe it's Tom Skerritt in this movie, too. Yes. I was really nice. It was really cool seeing him. This has also gone on to have a sequel this year, Top Gun Maverick, that's already made over $1 billion, which kind of surprised me. But apparently that's a good movie. So it's good that good movies are making the money. So anyway, let's get into the first Top Gun from 1986. Zero, what did you think of the very first Top Gun?
It is peak Americana.
Man, I saluted my flag every time I watched it. I was like, oh, thank you, sir. Oh.
Yeah, so peak Americana. It's also the ultimate bromance movie.
My God. The homoeroticism in this movie is mwah! Love it. Oh. Go ahead, keep going.
But yeah, just absolutely, completely, just in your face America. That is just what this movie is.
Oh, definitely, and it's I sat here watching it last night. Just like I normally I hate this about some movies, but the way that this movie's on Front Street about every little thing, it was like somewhat refreshing because I'm like, oh, there's just no pretense to this movie at all. It is what it is, and that's it. It is the ultimate bromance, ultimate action, like Go America movie. Yeah, like there is literally no depth to the movie at all. You see what you see, and that's all there is to it. And it was oddly refreshing and kind of cool to watch. So like I said, normally I would watch this and go, "Oh God," but actually I really enjoyed watching this movie. Like it was entertaining as hell to watch. I think the first thing I want to point out in the movie that surprised me was the soundtrack. Like, before we get into like real nitty gritty things about the acting and the directing, but the soundtrack to this movie is awesome. Like boppers throughout the entire movie, whether it's the main soundtrack like Kenny Loggins and Cheap Trick in the movie and Berlin, to like even minor things from like Otis Redding. Like they chose every single song perfectly and it fits so well. Even if it makes no sense that guys that are essentially, I think they're in their 20s, I think the characters are in their 20s and they're singing like Great Balls of Fire, which made little sense to me. It's like, why would these kids, these young, want to listen to Great Balls of Fire? Wouldn't they? But anyway, that was strange to me, but it still somehow fit, like into the scope of the movie, with just being this like silly, jingoistic, yeehaw America movie that I just couldn't help but utterly enjoy throughout the entire runtime.
It was just a fun movie throughout, and that's with me just seeing it just many years ago in the 90s with my dad, and then saw it again during my 20s and when I was in college and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just like, yeah, this movie is still fun as hell.
Yeah, and most times these blockbusters, as time goes on, really starts to lower in quality. And when the sheen of, let's say, the CGI or the stunts don't entirely work out, or they don't look as good. But since this didn't have much in the way of let's say movie magic, I believe that a lot of this was shot with planes in the movie. So that showed off very well. This is like the ultimate. I would say this is probably one of the best blockbusters I've seen I've really ever seen. Really, like movies that are, and this is like quintessential summer blockbuster. This made tons of money in '86 when it came out in the summer. So I thoroughly. I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was so much fun watching it. And to see like the actors really enjoying themselves too in this was, they're not taking things too seriously. It's not overwrought. There's not much drama in the movie. Just everyone's like hanging with the bros and having a good time and going to bars and shit. Yeah, and yeah, it's just God. Like I guess that's the thing I was most surprised by this is that I enjoyed it so much and just had fun with it and just was like having a good time throughout. I guess to note here, if we're going to get into performances real quick, I mean, like I said, this is a standard blockbuster, so performances aren't that in depth, but this is like Tom Cruise, like at peak charm. Like, holy shit. Like, even when he's kind of a creep in the movie, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. I was like, that's funny. That's cool.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, he's kind of a creep, but well, I guess it's because he is sort of this hotshot dude. So
yeah, oh yeah, like he's I believe he's in his younger like he's gotta be like 21, the character in this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would make sense that he's a complete fucking horn dog. So I can see that in the movie. As much it's funny, as much as this movie is kind of a time capsule of the 80s, it's strangely kind of timeless, because I can see, like, if someone's watching this, I don't think they'd have an easy time figuring out, oh, this is from the 80s, unless they're kind of paying attention to it and going, oh, yeah. Like for example, like Tom Cruise would be wearing a helmet when he's on his motorcycle. He wouldn't be doing it without it. That's illegal now. So that's one thing. And I would guess like jukeboxes being like in the bars would be another thing. So that would kind of date it. But like that's if you're paying attention. But the movie, despite it being a relic of the 80s, is actually, I would say, fairly timeless.
Even though it is definitely an antique of its time, it's still definitely timeless in a way too. It's sort of this weird sort of, I guess you could say, characteristic of the movie that it both is an antiquity of the 80s, but also just timeless to watch as well too. Right.
And the music, I think, is what dates it too, but the music is so damn good that I just don't care. Because
definite bangers in that movie. My God.
Like, I already knew of Danger Zone. Like, that was like immediate, because that's like an ethereal kind of, like, if you pay attention to movies, you know Danger Zone is synonymous to Top Gun. But like, and I know the in joke now about Top Gun is it is probably one of the most homoerotic movies you could ever see without it being about homosexuals. So when the playing with the when the one scene where playing with the boys is playing and it's a bunch of topless like guys in short shorts playing volleyball, I was like, oh my God. Like that's the thing about this movie that's hilarious. Like, people get angry when people would get angry when people would say, "Oh, that is so homoerotic." No, it's not. It's bros being bros, being broing out with each other. It's totally masculine. Like, this is a film with a bunch of really attractive guys, half naked most of the time, and if they're not half naked, they're sweating through their pores, or they're in showers together.
Yep.
And just like, and with their arms around each other in certain scenes. Like, I'm watching this going, what the hell is this?
And of course, you've got all the dudes in the uniform for those who have a kink for dudes in
Oh,
uniform.
good, yeah. That's it. They're either half naked or they're in uniform, which is just there we go. It's great. Let's get to the action real quick. I mean, the action still surprisingly holds up. It's pretty good. It's not the most exciting, but it's fun. It's fun to watch, especially when you realize, oh, these are just training exercises. But they still managed to make it exciting to watch, which I thought was surprising.
Yeah, especially because just the way that they sort of set up the training exercises is that in a way it's a game, but in a way just the game does have high stakes because you have to be within like a certain percentage to graduate was how the movie set it up and everything.
Yeah.
So just there are definitely stakes, but of course just with Maverick being kind of the hero character, it's just like, yeah, he can't fail.
Of course. And we'll point out Tony Scott, who is the director of this movie. He's made a number of really good action movies. I think after this, to note some: True Romance, Man on Fire, Days of Thunder, another Tom Cruise movie. The remake of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, The Last Boy Scout. What else here do we have here? The Crimson Tide, Enemy of the State, Beverly Hills Cop 2. He did that too. Okay, cool. Yeah, like he's definitely a very gifted action director. So it did not surprise me in the slightest that, like, because when I realized, oh, he did this, so I was in for something good. And it turned out to be great. It was just a lot of fun to watch. And the action, like I said, is really good in this. Let's get to the romance part. We talked about this last night after I watched it. And I can't help but appreciate how in Front Street, I keep saying the same thing, like how direct the romance is. This isn't a will they, won't they romance. It is, oh, they will. Just when will it happen is pretty much what the romance is. And, yeah, like, and Kelly McGillis is okay in the movie. She's good. But, like, the romance part of the movie isn't that important, which surprised me with how much people would call this a very romantic movie on top of being a great action movie. I just didn't see that part. But yeah, it's like the romance is okay, but it clearly was not the focus of the movie at all.
Yeah, and for me, the directness of the romance piece of it, I thought was kind of nice because for me, just I always hate it when just a romance movie just pulls back and forth, and you just end up kind of proverbially screaming at the screen, going, "We know you like each other, just frickin' admit it to each other, damn it."
Now, Zero, well, okay, yeah, some movies do it horribly because you know what's going to happen, and you're like, stop toying it around and just do it, please. But if they're written well enough, they do end up being pretty good. Like, they're good movies. Like, one I can think of is Notting Hill, one of my all-time favorite romance films, where it is a will they, won't they, that they clearly like each other, but certain circumstances keep happening where they just aren't together. But, yeah, like, the formula doesn't bother me so much as if it's done poorly. When it's done poorly, it's painful, but yeah, like I have no problem. I have no issue with the formula itself. It's just how it's executed. But you're not really a romance type though, a romance film type, are you? So
Yeah, definitely not
okay.
much for romance movies, but yeah, just if the push pull is done with a little bit of care, that kind of gets you kind of intrigued and invested. That it's kind of like a balanced dance. Then yeah, it can be fun. But yeah,
Right.
just this movie was just kind of like, yeah, here we go. It's just like, all right, got it.
Yeah, yeah. So it just matters if you can believe the tension, you can believe the push and pull. But you're right. This movie just says, oh, "Fuck that! They're gonna sleep together." I mean, just give it some time. It will happen. Don't worry. So I just thought that was hilarious. Like, I just sat here going, "Oh, so how are they gonna pull this?" Oh, they're not doing anything to make it less obvious that they're gonna do it. Okay, sure. But it worked for the movie because you don't have this overwrought romance going on in the middle of the dogfighting. Like in I would say in a lesser kind of film, the character will be struggling with being Top Gun while struggling with the fact that he is in love with this young, vivacious, beautiful woman. And he is torn asunder by the conflict of being the best he can be while being the best man he can be for that woman. And I would just sit here going, this fucking sucks. Can we get to the planes, please? Thank you. And I'm actually really glad I would say they resolved the romance in like 45 minutes, essentially. Like, it went from they meet to, yeah, they're interested, and I think it's the woman who pretty much, it was McGillis' character, Charlie, who pretty much says, yeah, I'm interested, to essentially what goes on throughout the film. So, yeah. Anything else we can talk about before we get to spoilers, since we've just spoiled the romance angle?
No, I mean, just really just overall, it's just a plain fun movie to watch. It's peak Americana. It's it goes a little heavy with the bromance angle, and
but that's what makes it good.
And then, of course, just you've got heavy eye candy for all the male actors, for anyone who's of the persuasion and very interested in males. Just it's just a gigantic package that, even though it's an antique of the 80s, it's also just so damn good, even in the modern day.
Yeah, I'm inclined to really not like 80s anything, any 80s media, like music. 80s music I hate. A lot of popular 80s movies I just don't like. Something about the way the 80s did their media just sits wrong with me, like, almost all the time. But this, I really had a lot of fun watching this. So this was, like, from the soundtrack to the action to the way they did the romance angle and certain things in the movie. I mean, to me, it worked. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so do you want to get into spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to get into spoilers for Top Gun. If you're one of the 5 like me beforehand who haven't seen this film, you can stop now and come back to it when you're ready, and we will go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, can we talk about how creepy it was that Maverick went into the ladies' bathroom to pursue Charlie?
Yeah, that was pretty creepy. It was just like, dude.
I'm sitting here like, no, you're not gonna, no. Wait a minute, no. And he does it like, good God, what are you doing? And the fact that the woman's like, oh, hey there, stud. It's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, that's not how that goes, but whatever.
Like, oh God. And then the initial interaction with the two of them, which is sing You Lost That Love and Feeling, another song that I can't believe kids that young at that time were singing, but okay, I'll go with it at this point. But man, it just I think we discussed it in the initial review. They show no pretense that this is a will they, won't they romance. This is a, yeah, they will. Just wait. It will happen. Don't worry. Just give it a few minutes, and then you'll get there. Just fine. But was the romance believable? I would say no. Like, if
definitely not.
No, like if unless you're one of those people who are like, oh, the good girls like the bad guys kind of thing. It was just like, Maverick is a fucking creep. he is a arrogant, like, just arrogant, womanizing creep. And the fact that this apparently really intelligent, really gifted woman is like, yeah, I'll fuck you. It's like, what? Wait a minute. But, like, that doesn't matter too much in this, because I'm like, it's kind of like, it kind of like goes with the fun of the movie. Not that him going into the woman's bathroom was fun. It was stupid, no doubt, but it just was like, okay, I'll go with it, I guess, if you're going that way. But, yeah. I think if we're going to talk about Top Gun, we have to talk about the relationship between Maverick and Goose. Because that really was the romance of the movie, if we're being honest.
Yeah, just bros being bros.
Oh, yeah. It was the most believable relationship in the movie. It was a matter of opposites. One is an arrogant playboy. The other is a family man, which I was surprised by. Like, when did he impregnate his wife? Was my question when I saw it. I was like, what?
Yeah, because it just goes from him kind of joking around, doing sort of like boys stuff, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, so my wife and kid are here. It's just like, huh?
No, it's like, wait a minute. I mean, you mean to tell me you've been picking up chicks at the bar this entire time, and you've had a wife and kid at home? Huh. Okay, let's go. Like, sure, okay, I'll go with it. The relationship is sort of believable, but it's not deep at all. It's more like Goose is like, gosh darn it, Maverick, you done it again. Well, I know you're crazy, so let's just move on and try and do better next time, right? That's right, Goose. Now suck my cock. Cowaway to the danger zone. No actual fellatio happened in this movie. So and even though I've never seen this movie, I knew about Goose dying in the middle of the movie. But like I didn't. But like when it happened, I was like, oh, okay. I don't mind things being spoiled to me, because if the movie is good and it's well written, it being spoiled is not going to ruin the surprise. But I was surprised that they went that route in the movie, where they had this relationship that was, I guess, the only, I would say at the time, was maybe the only positive thing that he had at Maverick in the movie. But then suddenly they kill off his best friend. I was like, wow, that's surprisingly dark. But I mean,
just the killing the Goose being killed from like a training exercise gone completely wrong still hurts. Oh my god, just even after all these years, it's like, damn, the one dude that was the bro, just checking Maverick at all the corners and trying to be the voice of reason, and damn, just killed in a training exercise. Man, that is tough.
And it does happen, but the fact that it was a freak accident is what they made it sound like. Was like, really? Okay, that's strange, but okay. I didn't really. God, the movie kind of slowed down. Like, it's supposed to slow down when something like that happens, but it kind of feels off with the rest of the movie in a certain extent. Like, I'm still expecting, like, super hard fun times and, like, yeah, let's play some volleyball again. And all of a sudden, this tragic death happens. I'm like, shit. I was kind of. I will call it as a negative, because it just didn't fit with the rest of the yeehaw kind of we're invincible movies. Like, it didn't seem right to have like the feeling of, oh, you're not invincible after all. so you need to take this more seriously, when literally no character took this seriously at all, including Iceman, who is supposed to be the serious, like the deadly serious guy in the entire movie, like the one that throws cold water into the fire when things get too hot. But
Yeah.
even he wasn't taking it as seriously. So for it to get to that serious of a thing that happens, to where then you have to be like, oh, his son's an orphan now, or I mean, his son won't see his father anymore, or oh my God, how is Maverick going to deal? Like, it just seemed really off for this movie, because like the way that Tom Skerritt's character Viper put it was basically, forget about it, you have to move on. Was just like, fuck. I'm like, damn, that's what you got to do in that situation. But that still is kind of like, ooh, that's a harsh buzz.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, that is a brutal and fatalistic way of saying, yeah, you're gonna have friends die every once in a while. It's part of the job, so get over yourself. It was like, whoa, shit, that is real fatal. God.
And I think at that time, like, people didn't take movies and entertainment that seriously, so they probably didn't pay attention to that part too much. It might have been the time where they went to get popcorn or went to go pee because the thing started slowing down, or just in general. I think people started thinking more deeply about movies and connection until probably the 90s, around that time, where where people started watching blockbusters and demanding a little more of a realistic representation, or a more realistic, that their characters are a little more realistic than just a cardboard cutout of what you'd want a character to be. So I think that's just before the time, and it was just kind of weird to just be watching this movie, having a good time, and suddenly cold water is splashed on your face, going, fucko. So I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, and your mention of just being waterboarded with sadness, yeah, I can definitely see that, because I know when I had watched it originally with my dad back in the 90s, that was kind of how I felt. I was like, damn, Jesus, what the shit? It went from like vibes of hell yeah, we're having fun, we're acing the class, to oh shit, my best friend just died.
Yeah.
And one of my superiors is basically telling me to get the fuck over it. Jesus, what the shit? Like, waterboard me with sadness, why don't you?
I would have much rather the plot line to be basically, have the romance that just lasts 15 minutes realistically, but I would rather it have just been the push and pull relationship being between Maverick and Goose, where Maverick fucks up one too many and pisses off Goose, and he's going to have to make it up to Goose in some way to make it realize that they need each other. I think that would probably have been the better thing to do than to just kill Goose. Which, I mean, and God, I know I'm one of the few people who thinks this, but because Goose dying in this movie is kind of iconic. It's a twist in the movie no one expected, and resonates with a lot of people. But I just watched it, so I'm like, that's weird that they went from, yee-haw, let's have a good time, to, oh yeah, you could die. So I mean, we could talk about Maverick, really. He's not a deep character at all. I mean, if you didn't, we'll put it this way: if you didn't have Tom Cruise playing this, you would have to have another young actor who is just as charismatic playing this character. I can't see anybody else but Tom Cruise playing this, pretty much, because this is essentially, and especially now with how he is, this is essentially Tom Cruise. Like if you look at Tom Cruise now in the movies he does and the stunts he does, like, you can look at Maverick and go, oh yeah, like, Maverick is Tom Cruise. So this is why it works so well, because Tom Cruise is fucking nuts. So it makes sense.
And I even on just watching it again, just, yeah, Maverick is definitely a little bit one-dimensional. Just, I mean, he is what he is. He's an ace he's an ace fighter pilot who's got one hell of an ego, and just that's
Yeah.
really most of the movie. Sure, they kind of try to humanize him with the death of Goose and everything, but even then, it doesn't really humanize him that much, because when you get to the end of oh my God, we've got unknown planes in the Indian Ocean, and we got to suit up and go. I mean, he's just back to super ace pilot again.
Yeah. I mean, the film is filled to the brim of one-dimensional characters. You have the cigar chomping admiral who's like, God damn it, Maverick, you're making me pull out my hair even though I'm bald, and shit like that. And you'd have the stern pilot who is a father figure to an extent. You have the best friend, the plucky best friend, the crazy wife, the sultry blonde who's the love interest that really isn't much else, really. So, yeah, like, all these characters are one-dimensional, but I don't mind the one-dimensionality in this, mainly because it just kind of fits with the vibe of the movie. Like, it just...
Yeah.
So, like, at this point, I don't mind that they're pretty much skin deep and as deep as a puddle, pretty much. But yeah, I mean that's fair criticism. I could definitely agree with you there that they're one dimensional. Which is kind of why it's kind of hard to talk more about this movie, other than just saying like characterizations and everything is one dimensional.
I did think that kind of the I guess you could call it prep school sort of like vibe that was going on was always kind of funny to see, because you just like when Charlie makes her reveal of, hey, yeah, so I'm the Pentagon person who pretty much knows a whole bunch about planes and everything, and of course just Maverick being the smart ass when she's like, oh yeah, so the Russian planes can't do like a negative 4G maneuver, and then he's just like, well, I call bullshit because I observed it. And then of course she's just like, okay, well, you want to share details? And then of course just kind of the prep school vibe, just Maverick just says, yeah, that's classified. And of course you hear the kind of the chuckling and giggling of all the other people in the Top Gun class, just kind of laughing. And I was just like, God, this just has the vibe of like prep school.
Oh yeah, just a bunch of immature little dickheads who are just pissing off the teacher. Of course, yeah. But that's like kind of the vibe of the whole movie. It's just a movie you can't take super seriously. It's just a fun ass movie to enjoy. It's my definition of a popcorn movie. Turn off your brain and enjoy. And that's essentially how I enjoyed this movie. Not thinking about things too much. And then when I did, it was kind of funny to think about it. But yeah, like I think everyone has gone on to do this with this movie. Turn off your brain, have some fun, and just have a blast is basically what the movie really entails. Anything more to add on this? I mean, there's not really much more to talk about, I think, when it comes to the movie and spoilers, unless there's something specifically that like I'm not getting, or like basically I'm not pointing out towards that. Like we talked about the music, right? Like the music is fantastic. Like
yeah, I mean, we briefly went over it in the beginning, but I mean, if you want to kind of go into more granular detail, just.
I mean, I just think that all the music just fit perfectly throughout the movie. Like there wasn't a time where I was watching the movie and listening to the music and go, that doesn't fit. It was like, what? That was an odd choice. But it not only fit perfectly with the movie, but it enhanced what you were watching, which really is the best thing you can do with the soundtrack. Is basically not only choose the right songs that fit with the mood, but also enhance the scene. Which the music I think is pretty damn crucial in this movie. Like I thought about it after I watched the film, and I'm like, this is probably one of the best soundtracks to a movie I've heard. Like next to maybe Forrest Gump. Like, I think it fits that well.
Yeah, just the music is just so good. I mean, you've got Berlin playing during the romance bits.
Yeah.
You've got Kenny Loggins during like some of the action scenes. Just they really, really nailed the score for this. It was just it was fun back in the '90s when I first watched it, and it's still fun now.
Yeah, absolutely. God, and usually, God, I think this adds to the timelessness of the movie itself. Because, yeah, when I was watching the movie, I'm like, why are they singing 50s songs to each other? That's weird. But then it kind of just fit. It just felt right in the movie. So I went from criticizing it to being like, you know what? That's not bad, actually. Okay, cool. Yeah, like, the soundtrack just really enhances the movie to a certain extent, where, like, maybe if you're not enjoying it as much, you're still bopping along to the beat and just enjoying what you're watching. So, yeah, that was I think the first thing that I noticed about the movie is like, wow, they made some really good choices on this. So, okay, let's go to our final thoughts. Zero, go right ahead.
As far as my thoughts, Top Gun is still excellent, even if it is a relic of the '80s. I would still advise, just if you're in the mood for just a movie that is peak Americana, that's got one hell of a romance, and just kind of an interesting sort of take on a hypothetical conflict with a enemy that's I guess an amalgamation of both Russia and North Korea, then yeah, Top Gun's still a fun movie, and it's just got just the action and the camaraderie and the spades, the weird the twist of Goose dying in the middle is kind of a weird buzzkill on the mood, but it almost feels like the movie's trying to go, yo, so Maverick's still a human being. He's still got feelings. He's not some sort of a super hotshot person that doesn't have feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
But all in all, just I would still recommend anyone just who either hasn't seen it or just wants something that's just a really just raw America, just sort of in your face yet fun movie to just give Top Gun a watch.
Yeah. I have to agree with you on most parts, actually. This is, I would say, one of the better summer blockbuster movies I've seen. It's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's campy in the right ways. It's got great music. It is a blast to watch, really. And the action is good. Like, it really is just... just in having fun with a movie, Top Gun is just a lot of fun. I did find the buzzkill part of it weird, but that's only for like a small portion of the film, really. But yeah, it really is just a lot of fun to watch, and the music is just perfect in this movie. Like, I can't get enough of how good the soundtrack is. So, yeah. If you're one of the few who haven't seen it yet, definitely watch it. It's a lot of fun. And if you're going to watch it because you heard Top Gun Maverick is making all sorts of money and is popular, I mean, you can't go wrong by watching this first. So now after watching this, I'm interested in Top Gun Maverick and see what they do with that. So, yeah, good movie. I have to agree. So before we get to our question, I want to point out a passing that happened today. Legendary actor James Caan died today at 82. He was 82. Zero, we talked beforehand. You're not really familiar with his work, but he did some excellent work in The Godfather. He also was in Thief. He also did some small roles here and there in smaller movies like Bottle Rocket. He was also in Elf for a period of time. And I want to point out like maybe a cute little movie that some people can watch called Mickey Blue Eyes with Hugh Grant. That was kind of fun, but he was good in it. But of course, and Misery. Everyone will remember Misery, of course. But yeah, James Caan, a unique actor who basically played himself throughout his entire film career and made a career out of it. And there's few people like that get to do that and do it well. So rest in peace, James Caan. Really good actor. Sad to see it go. Did you have anything to add on James Caan?
No, since I'm not really familiar with his work.
That's fine. Okay. So, Zero, we are at the end of the podcast. So, we are at the point where I have a question for you.
All right.
So, I'm going to choose violence today, Zero. And what I'm going to ask you will probably get us all into some trouble. So, here we go. Zero, what do you think is the most overrated movie?
Ooh. That is a bit of a hard one, especially since just
let's do this. What do you think is an overrated movie? Like, what when someone says, "Oh, that movie is great," and you're like, "No," or "It's okay." Like, what movies get so much praise that you sit there and go, "It's not that good," or "No, that sucks"? What are you talking about? Like, what movie do you think of when you think overrated in that sense?
Ooh, gonna have to think on that for a second.
Okay. Do you want me to just give mine and I'll deal with the hatred when that happens?
Yeah, I mean, You can start.
Okay, I have two really, but I'm gonna choose one. For about 5 years, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, I don't know, longer than that, maybe 10 years ago, I saw The Shawshank Redemption after so many people were like, "Oh, it's one of the best movies ever." And it was on the top IMDb. It was number 1 for a while. I was like, I gotta watch it. I gotta see how it is. It's okay. It's fine. But it's nowhere near in my opinion, it's nowhere near the best. It's really long. It's like 3 fucking hours. And you could cut an hour out of it easy and do the same. But it was an okay movie. But I don't get the heaps and heaps of praise it gets for being such a magnificent movie. I'm like, good God. But what I will say is probably one of the most overrated movies nowadays is The Dark Knight. Now, I say this by also saying that The Dark Knight is a good movie. But if we're being honest with ourselves here, I think a lot of people, bought into the marketing of The Dark Knight big time when it came out, and bought into the mythos of Heath Ledger's death when the movie came out and how he got his Oscar. Because let's be clear here, okay? Heath Ledger did a good job as the Joker. He did. And if he was still alive today, he would probably be more popular now than ever because of that film. I agree with that. He shouldn't have won the Oscar though. Like, especially, God, like, to me, he won the Oscar because he died. And because the studio, I think it was Warner Brothers, the studio that made it, basically profited off his death so well and marketed so much towards Heath Ledger, and because of that is how he gained all this notoriety and being the best performance of all time. It's not even close. And before you say, "Oh no, like, it was such a good movie and it was such a good performance, they had to give him the Oscar," before that movie, the Oscars never wanted to give any due to a comic book movie, ever. And that was the first time, only because Heath Ledger was so liked in Hollywood that they felt compelled to give him the Oscar, is my opinion on that. Is it a bad movie? No. But it's a good movie. But The Dark Knight is not even the best movie of that trilogy, to me. So for people to say, like, "Oh, it's one of the best movies ever," come on, let's be real here. So I'll get hatred for that. So go ahead. What's yours?
For the American movie scene, Uh, as much as I like the movie, Full Metal Jacket is one that gets just a lot of praise, and just I think the praise is more just uh, with with more respect to just, hey, just um, it's an interesting sort of war story and everything, but at the same time, it's just uh, I think a lot of people tend to miss the story that the movie is trying to tell, which is just the brutalities of war itself. That they aren't necessarily material in form, but there are brutalities that do take form in sort of mental illness and everything.
Right.
And again, I love Full Metal Jacket, but yeah, just it it's always interesting when someone's like, "Oh yeah, that movie is so good. Oh gee, it's just so much action and stuff." It's like,
Not really.
it's just like, no, not really. It's just like, this is more of a retelling of just the brutalities of war, and you totally missed the point.
Yeah,
And
it's about the dehumanization of somebody that goes through basic training and becomes a soldier. Like that's what it's about. So yeah, for someone to praise it because of the action is really weird. So
yeah, and this one is more from the Asian side of things,
uh-oh.
which some people will likely give me grief for it, but Old Boy, just there are a lot of people who praise Old Boy because, like, oh my
Wow.
god, just the action scenes are so good, just everything's so brutal, oh, just so good. It's just like, yeah, I get it. It's the kind of action that you don't see in the West very much. I get it. It's a bit of um, torture, violence, porn.
Oh god,
I
yeah.
get it. Just for me, I just really um, didn't care much for sort of like the just extended torture porn sequences. Yeah, I mean, it's got a psychological angle that you've got just the villain of the piece just sort of really trying to screw over the main character and everything in just really screwed up, fucked up ways. But just uh, for me, it was just I think for me it was just the torture porn was just a little much, and it's just like yeah, just it's not for me. But at the same time, just because it's torture porn doesn't make it somehow like one of the best movies in Asian cinema. Come on.
I you know, I have to praise the hallway scene at least. Like the hammer scene in the hallway where he's
Yeah.
fighting all the, like that was a good scene. But I kind of agree with you. Like the way Old Boy, like it is excessively dark and just wrong in so many levels at times. It's like you really need to be okay with wallowing in muck in order to enjoy that movie. And when I watched it, good God, years ago, like I enjoyed it, but I was like, this normally isn't for me. It's like this is this makes you feel dirty afterwards. Like especially like the revelation that happens at the end of the movie. But like I could see what you're saying. Absolutely. Like if you're not a predator, if you're not like someone who's okay with torture porn and like excessively gory violence, like yeah, it's a hard to sit through. So yeah.
It was kind of sad when Old Boy was kind of popular during its heyday, because I just remember people going, "Oh yeah, just I wasn't ever interested in Asian cinema until Old Boy came around." It's just like there's more to Asian cinema than just violence and torture porn,
My God,
guys.
Asian cinema is partially responsible. Well, I would say mostly responsible for probably some of the most popular types of movies in Hollywood. Like you wouldn't have Star Wars without Kurosawa. Like, and I believe there's other, like Kurosawa himself is probably responsible for a lot of good Hollywood movies because they just take elements of Kurosawa films and put it into American made movies, and they end up being really good because they had a really good backbone from those Kurosawa films. So yeah, like Asian cinema is vitally important to the film industry. And at least in America, it doesn't get the credit. Like, we can go on with how many times Seven Samurai has been remade in America, like with the Magnificent Seven and shit like that. So yeah, like it's like I think we could just make more of a talk about how Kurosawa himself is important to cinema as a whole. But I digress. But yeah, so Old Boy is yours. That's interesting. And Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, I don't like the praise Full Metal Jacket gets, because you're right. A lot of people, when they watch it, they kind of get the wrong idea from it. But to be fair, like, Full Metal Jacket isn't Kubrick's most popular film. It's The Shining. And I think The Shining is probably one of the most overrated movies ever.
In my case, if you really want to get sort of in the weeds, I would say runner-up, and this is another one from the Asian movie scene, is Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, come on! How can you hate Grave of the... Okay, you hate Grave of the Fireflies?
No, it's just more just... Some people are just like, oh, well, I thought it was a very beautiful film, and it's just so unique, and it's also very sad, and it's just like, no, this is one of those that so many people miss the message that the movie's trying to send, which is war's fucking brutal, and the effects of the atomic bomb on Japan during World War II were absolutely devastating.
Oh yeah. That's one of the stories in it, though, but it also is about, basically, it is a story about misplaced love in a way, because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, and I personally love the movie, but it really is a story about how this young kid wants to be a man so badly that it turns, like, it's a small part of it's the big part of the story, but it's not the whole story. But it just turns into the folly of a young man who just so badly wants to be a man and wants to be an adult and take care of his sister, but the disaster that happens soon after, like, it's a devastating movie. Like, oh, God.
Oh yeah, just I know the first time I watched it, I ended up having to just chase down a box of tissues because I was crying so hard. But yeah, just that's one that, like I said, I personally love it and everything, but I always hate it when just people just bring up, like, just the less severe parts of it. It's like, oh yeah, it was a beautiful movie and everything. It's just like, no, this is something that had such a deeper message, and you're missing it. God.
Okay. I used to be like that a lot, where people would say, like, oh, God, what was one movie that I forget? But there's always a movie that people are like, oh, I love this movie, and it's so cool. Isn't it? Like, you didn't get this at all, did you? But yeah, like, I used to be like that and be the person, no, you don't get it, do you? It's this, and this. And, like, at this point in my life, I'm like, yeah, if you enjoy it, whatever. But, like, yeah, I become more annoyed with people who try to stretch a movie into a point of view that they have more than watch a movie that presents a point of view. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's just sometimes people watch a movie and they just really so badly, because they love it so much, they want to see themselves in it, and because they want to identify as that movie in a sort of way, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So that's what I've become more annoyed by. But I've kind of kept those opinions to myself to a certain extent, because if I would go on all day about, like, oh, but this movie is about this, really, and you just simply don't get it. And, like, I kind of hate being that person now. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it. All right. So we are at the end of the show, but at this point we discuss what we're watching next. And it's funny how we mentioned that the romance part of this movie that we watched is probably the weakest. Because I decided that the next movie we should watch is a romance movie. And because you hate romance movies so much, Zero, I thought maybe you should choose one. So, Zero, what are we watching for next week?
Next week's feature will be Crazy Rich Asians. My motivation for picking it is I've gotten so much grief from my family, who we all are of Asian descent and everything. And it's always been a little bit of a pain point every time we have like a family meetup. It'll be like, oh my god, how in the hell have you not seen it? And I'm just like, guys, I'm not much for romance movies. Come on, lay off.
Do what I used to do when people would question, like, how come you haven't seen Back to the Future? Because I have taste. That's what I would do to piss them off. It's like, because I have taste. That's why. So, I don't hate Back to the Future, by the way. I just say that to piss people off. But okay, we are going to watch I think it's 2019 that came out. The 2019 Summer Smash, Crazy Rich Asian, 2018, I should correct myself. The 2018 Summer Smash, Crazy Rich Asians, is on HBO Max right now, so if you're going to watch with us, go ahead, you can watch it on there. I already like the cast. Wow, okay. Constance Wu, Henry Golding, and Michelle Yeoh, okay. And Gemma Chan, okay. Aquafina. Why?
Yeah, Aquafina.
Why? Okay. You know what? I'll stop there. Okay. So on that note, that'll be the end of this episode of the Capital Games Movie Club podcast. Tune in next week where we watch Crazy Rich Asians. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
We'll talk to you next week.